Hello again, welcome on a Thursday to our weekly sporting chat despite the lockdown, although I have to say there have been some locks down this week. Sorry if that's a bit partridge, but I've had a homemade haircut from Mrs. Biggs this week, which has put me in a little bit finer fettle, and also delighted to welcome a legendary football figure to the programme who's increasingly relevant at a time like this, and you'll know the reason why, and if you don't, you'll know for the time we've talked to him. A very warm welcome, Mr. Dean Windass.
All right, Alan. Morning.
Good morning. Yeah, to you.
Morning.
Yeah, we're recording this. It's going out. Yeah. We don't mind being honest. We are recording this on a Thursday morning. You're sort of kitted out, ready for your morning run. Fitness is so important, physically, but also, and people who follow you on Twitter will know how important mental fitness is, particularly at a time like this.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And obviously when I do my videos, like you just said there, I shave my own head, so my missus don't do my hair. But now, like you say there, is a situation where, you know, when I do mention about, you know, you make your bed and the pillows on top, or however you make your bed, it doesn't really matter. You know, it doesn't matter if you put your pillows on top, underneath, whatever. You know, the moral of the story is you got to get out of bed, and you get out of bed, and the first thing you do is obviously you get up, you start the day, you know, you have a plan. Obviously, especially in the lockdown, you've got to have a plan. You can't just sit in all day and twiddle your thumbs and watch Netflix all day or this, that, and other. You've got to get out and get a bit of exercise. Obviously, you've got to play by the rules. You've got to do your hour exercise, but it clears your mind. And that's the most important thing, is because everybody gets lethargic, everybody gets tired. Listen, when you go on holiday, what do? If you don't exercise, you just lay around the pool. You feel more tired when you don't do anything. So I try to, I go for a run every day. You know, my missus goes for a run every day, and then what we do, then we plan the day. You know, then we have our lunch or dinner, whatever. And then just plan the day from there, because obviously we've been in it 6 weeks now, so it's basically repetition of what you're doing, really. And you know, then you plan what you're going to do tonight, you know, and you know, clap for the NHS tonight at 8:00. So listen, everybody knows the rules now, everybody knows what's happening, but the most important thing is obviously to keep your mind active, especially obviously sufferers with mental health or depression. So that's what I try to get across on my videos, is that obviously you've got to have a structure. And even when all this is over, you don't stop that structure, you know. Because when I was struggling, I was in a bad place. I didn't have any structure in my life. I'd stay in bed. I'd wallow in myself, pillow, not, you know. And the one thing I learned now is, you know, I get out of bed and I make my bed. And it was just something that I got from. I know I'm repeating myself all the time, but I got it from Vinnie Jones. You know, Vinnie Jones, when he lost his wife. You know, Piers Morgan asked him how he's coping and how he's getting on with life, and the first thing he said is, "I get out of bed and I make my bed." And I used to do that anyway. I've got a bit of OCD, so I used to do that anyway. But I thought, well, when I did, obviously thinking about what Vinnie says, when I did start to do that every day, then obviously my life started to change a little bit. I just wanted to send that message out, and obviously I didn't realise how big it'd get, to be fair.
Well, it has. You've got a tremendous following on Twitter, and people welcome those videos day in, day out. They find them inspiring. They find them uplifting. And it's a psychological trick, in a way, that we've all got to play with ourselves at this time. Making the bed is that, isn't it? I don't know if you've ever forgotten to do it, or if it's just a religious routine that you go through. What would happen if you didn't? If you got up and you didn't bother? Yeah,
well, listen, I was very superstitious as a footballer, really. You know, I used to have daft superstitions, and you know, like for example, when we had a home game, so I was at the home on a Saturday morning preparing for a game in the afternoon. You know, because I've got a bit of OCD and I'm always cleaning up. One morning I hoovered up. The kids had left some crumbs on the floor or whatever. And I hoovered up. I hoovered the living room and the kitchen or whatever I did. And I scored on the Saturday, on that afternoon, and we won the game. So every home game, I used to hoover up in the morning. And I used to think to myself, if I don't do it, I'm going to go crazy. And it's just stupid little things. And obviously, yeah, if I get up in the morning and the missus is in bed and I go downstairs and make a tea or a coffee, and the missus comes down, but she makes the bed. So it's not all the time I make the bed, she'll make it. Yeah. So that's the thing that I'll get out, or she'll get out, she'll do the tea and I'll make the bed. So it's a team effort as well. It's not just me making the bed every morning. I make sure the bed is made. Either I do it or she does it.
Yeah. So talking about that, yeah, indeed, talking about that great career of yours, 230 odd career goals. You were an icon at Hull City, great playoff goal to get them promotion. Bradford City as well, and you played for both Sheffield clubs. Now, when you've had such an eventful and enjoyable time as you've obviously had, what is that void like that you're now trying to fill, and which to a certain extent those of us who've not experienced those kind of highs, we're perhaps going through a little bit of that as well, because our normal lives have been taken away. So what's that like?
People don't realise, I've just actually watched the Sheffield United Wolves game in when Neil Warnock left me out the final. Yeah. And people don't realise, like as you say now, people who've got to work from home, actually not going into the offices, into the factory, not seeing the work colleagues every day, which they do every day, like footballers do every day. They go in the change rooms, they train every day. You become a big one big massive family. And when that's took away from you, people now are starting to think, oh God, I'm climbing the walls because I can't get out, and this, that, and other, and I can't go to work. Listen, how many people grumble on a Monday morning that they've got to go to work? Now I bet they're desperate to go to work. So this is a learning curve. This is a learning curve for them, in a sense that listen, you take life for granted, don't you? And I think for me as a footballer, I was prepared, for retirement because I was 40 and the body couldn't take it anymore. But the one thing about it is that you miss the dressing room, you miss the banter. I was the biggest prankster in the world. People would take the mickey out of me, I'd take the mickey out of them. And that was just part of everyday life. And when it gets took away from you, it's hard to adjust. Obviously, I went through a very tough time in my life, and that doesn't help. So you imagine now all these people who are desperate to get back to work and desperate to get back to normality. Well, that's what it's like for a footballer when you retire. People say, listen, no, you've got all the money in the world, or you haven't got all the money in the world, or whatever. I appreciate everything I did, and I appreciate everything I got. And I understand these people who want to retire because they've worked till they're 65, 66 now, is it retirement pension or whatever. And, I retired at the age of 40. Footballers can do that. 35 is your pension. Excuse me, where you get your pension at 35 if you want to take your pension. I took mine when I retired at 40. So, yeah, I respect people who, go to work. I've worked on the building site, I've worked in a factory, so I understand. I've done both sides of it. So it's great being a footballer. It's hard going out to work, earning £200 a week or whatever people earn, or £400 or £500 a week to what footballers earn. I understand that. But when
we're experiencing the loss of our own dressing rooms at the moment. The equivalent of yours would be going to an office, meeting pals, going to the pub, going out for a meal. All of those things are great losses at the moment. But I was intrigued that you would revisit there. Obviously, one of the worst days of your career, being left out of a playoff final. Sheffield United Wolves, what was it, 2003? Wolves won 3-0, and you were expected to play, and it caused some controversy at the time. Why were you left out? And secondly, why would you watch that game again, having been left out?
Well, on Sky, you get obviously 4 or 3 on Sky every day. They're showing every playoff final, or they're showing every football match or whatever. So every hour of every day, I go onto that channel. And before I come on to speak to you, that game was on. that Sheffield United Wolves game was on. And listen, it was a massive disappointment in my life when Neil left me out. It was a surprise to me, and more important, I think it was a surprise to the lads. And it was the way that he went about it. It was the way that he tried to blame me for saying that I didn't want to play. You know, I'd play in the street. I'd play anywhere.
Yeah. So what actually took place between you? Can you say, how did he get the impression then, from your point of view, that you didn't want to play?
We went we went to the Belfry on the Wednesday to play golf before the Saturday, and we had the lads who wanted to play golf could go play golf. The lads who wanted to go in the spa or in the saunas could do that, who were not golfers. So a few of us went out there, Big Wayne Allenson, Michael Brown, Paul Pescaslido, Rob Cosluck. There's a few of us all playing golf. And then we went back in on after the golf, had a few drinks. You know, he allowed us to have a few drinks because the game wasn't till the Saturday. And then obviously going home the next day on the Thursday. So I was rooming with Paddy Kenny, and because Paddy picked me up he was from Halifax. He was living in Halifax. I was living in Leeds at the time, and he said, "I'll pick you up. You know, I can leave my car on the drive. You come and pick me up, and we'll go in one car together to Sheffield to jump on the coach." And so in the morning, I gets up in the morning to get my gear together, and we're having breakfast. And I sensed something on the night when we was having a drink with Kevin Blackwell and with Neil Warnock. And we was having good banter. It was a good crack. It was a good laugh. But I just sensed something. I don't know why I sensed something. And got up in the morning, ready to get in the car to drive, get on the car to drive home. And Neil Warnock pulled Paddy Kenny and says, "Oh, can I have a chat with you before you go?" Because Paddy was on the verge of signing a new contract. So I said to Paddy, "Give us your bag, I'll go put it in the car and I'll wait for you in the car." And as I'm just walking away, Warnock says, "Oh, after I've had a chat with him, I need to have a chat with you." So I said, "I'll go put my bags in the car, no problem." And I smelt a rat then. I smelt a rat. Either i.e. he's not going to start me and he's going to put me on the bench, or he's going to talk me through how we're going to play. And Paddy shouts me through. I was in the other room, shouts me through, "We want you now." And I sat like me and you are now in the hotel. There's loads of people walking around. And he says, "I'm not playing you." And I went, "Why?" And he says, "I want to go for pace. I want to play Stevie Cabot, who was quick, and Carla Saba, who was quick. But anybody was quicker than me anyway. I was never quick. But I had a different type of the way I played." And I went, "You're having a laugh." Because obviously I was on loan from Middlesbrough. I was probably the top earner because Middlesbrough were paying a majority of, Sheffield United were paying a majority of my wages. And I was gutted that he'd left me out. But then in the next breath, he says, "I'm not putting you on the bench either." And I went, "No, you are." Do you know what I mean? My head went a little bit. And he said, "I'm going to put Alan Kelly on the bench." Because he never, if you remember, he never used to put goalkeepers on the bench.
I do remember, yeah.
Gaggy Elke used to go in goal if Paddy got injured. And he says, "I can't afford, if Paddy gets injured, especially in a big game like this, not to have a goalie on the bench." Because I think Naomi, the Southampton goalkeeper in the FA Cup, he did a goal kick and he pulled his thigh and he came off, and then obviously then replaced him with another goalkeeper. Well, obviously that's gone through Warnock's head. If Paddy gets injured, like Naomi did, I've not got a replacement goalkeeper. And I was the one to sacrifice. And he says, "I'm not putting you on the bench." And I said it in my autobiography. You know, I wanted to hit him. And there's loads of people walking around. And he says, "I paid for all my hotels for my family, all my tickets." And he says, "But you can come to the game if you want to come to the game, but I understand if you don't want to come to the game." And I went, "Well, the mood I'm in now, I don't really want to travel to the game, because I don't want to see the players see me upset because it'll be infecting on the players."
Yeah.
So he says, "No problem, I'll get all your money back for your hotels and your tickets." I went, "Shove that up your whatever." But he sorted all that out. But then the icing and the nail in the coffin was when I was walking out, he went to shake my hand, I didn't shake his hand. And when I was walking out, he said, "Oh, and just one more thing." I said, "Oh, what's that?" He went, "Will you tell the press people that you've got a groin strain? If anybody asks you why you're not playing." And I just wanted to punch him. And I just walked out. I was in floods of tears, obviously with anger and obviously disappointment. And I got in the car with Paddy, and he says, he knew I'd been crying. He says, what's up? And I says, I'm not playing. And he went, you're joking me? He went, no. He says, I'm not even travelling. I'm not even on the bench. I said, but I'm not travelling because I've chosen not to travel.
Where did the impression come from that you didn't want to play then?
Pardon?
Where did the impression come from that you didn't want to play? Because clearly you did. Desperate.
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that till somebody told me. I didn't know that till, like, I think I was on Twitter. I went on Twitter then, or social media. I think somebody rang me up and said, "Oh, it's all over Sheffield radio that you've refused not to play." And I went, "What are you on about?" So then I remember Chris Kamara ringing me up, and he said, "Oh, this radio station want to ring you and ask about what's gone on." And that's what I told them on the radio. So I don't know where that came from.
No, I have to say, and I know Neil Warnock well, and Paddy Kenny was on this show a couple of weeks ago, and clearly he is a great friend, if you like, of a man who's constantly signed him throughout his career. It's very, very rare to hear a player criticise Neil Warnock, who's always praised for his man management. So it's quite a rare story.
Okay.
Quite clearly, there was two sides to it.
Yeah, but I'm not criticising him. He's made the decision. I'm not criticising the man. You know, I respect. You know, the one thing about it is when I was supposed to sign for Sheffield United the season after, that was in the contract. And John Hendry, he was my solicitor at the time. He'd done a contract to say that I'm going to sign for him next year. And then when he left me out, I says to Neil, I said to John Hendry, I don't want to play for him because I can't trust him. You know, he's left me out the biggest game of the season. He's brought me in from Middlesbrough on loan. You know, I played every game right up to the playoffs. Played in the semi-finals against Forest. And I said I can't play for him. I don't trust him. Never criticised him. I criticised him in front of him because I was upset that he left me out, which every player would do. The one thing I was disappointed with was he made out as though it was me, or somebody made out as though it was me. Now,
I don't think it came from him, but it's obviously these things happen.
For him to turn around and say, "Tell the media people that you're injured," and I went, "No, I'm not. I'll tell the truth." And then I got my point across on the radio. So going back to your last question. Why did everybody thought why would I walk out one of the biggest games of the season? You know, the bigger the occasion, the better I played. Yeah. And it wasn't just me. It wasn't just Paddy Kenny going, you can't believe you're not playing. I think we were all on a WhatsApp, or they were all on a group, or whatever it was. And all the players rang. And all the players.
Great to have an opportunity to hear your side of it, Dean, and you've taken us through it. How long ago was it? 17 years ago, but it's still a talking point to this day. As is, I mean, in part two, we'll get into some other aspects of your
but just before we go on to that about Neil.
Yeah.
So the season after, when I was supposed to sign for Sheffield United, I went back to Bradford, and we're playing Norwich City on the first game of the season. And so the first game of the season, next season, I signed for Bradford, and we're playing Norwich City at Valley Parade. And my mobile goes in the morning about 10:30, and it was a private number on my mobile, and I don't normally answer private numbers. And it was Neil Warnock. And I went, "Hello." He went, "It's Neil Warnock." I went, "Hi, Neil." He went, "Look, I'm just wishing you all the best for the season. You want to be in management one day, you want to be a coach, and you've got to make decisions. And I've made a bad decision." He says, "While you was at this football club, you improved this football club." He says, "And I made a bad decision on that day, and I can't go back to that." And you know what? I respect the man for it. I respect him. And every time when I was working at Hull City as an ambassador, and he'd bring his teams to the KC or the KCOM, I'd go in the change rooms with him and Blackie and sit down and have a coffee and have a laugh with him. So as far as that story, that's gone now. That's gone. You know, so, and what a career he had, by the way. You know, listen, a spade's a spade with Neil Warnock, and I respect him for that. Didn't respect him for what he did, but he was a manager. So he had an opportunity, you know, to make a decision. Listen, people say, if you would have played, Dean, would you have won? What a stupid question. They got beat 3-0. You know, he left Stuart McCall out as well, didn't he? He left Stuart out and brought Stuart on in the second half. So for me, the biggest mistake was leaving Macca out, because he was the leader in the change rooms. You know, he was one of the coaching staff. But listen, you move on, and so I massively respect Neil Warnock for it, massively.
What a fantastic sequel to the story, that you can have all this turbulence and strife, etc., and that you can come round to that kind of mutual respect is absolutely fantastic. And there's lots of examples of that in football. In part 2, I'd like to take you on to the Sheffield Wednesday episode. Of course, your son has been on loan. Josh has been on loan at Sheffield Wednesday, which is a talking point as well. But just to top and tail part 1, on social media, you have this technique where there is advice that we should all. I've had a little bit of abuse myself, so I know what it's like. That we should just ignore them and not engage them. But you have a way of both exposing them, but also exonerating them. There was a case this week. Somebody called you a fat bee or something like that. You kind of exposed him, but then you kind of forgave him. It was like a life lesson. Strange one.
Listen, people have opinions about it. I've been called fat all my life. It's just the way I'm built. It's like you say yesterday. I did 3.5 miles in 30 minutes. I think that since I've been retired, 11 years now, apart from the diversities, I've ran every day. Yeah. You get tired with a brush, don't you? He likes to go for a pint. He likes to do this and whatever. Well, in my day, you could do that. You could go for, but I never broke any rules when I played football. Drinking rules. I never drank 48 hours before a game. Every supporter in the country who I played against give me stick. When my kids were little, they used to go, Daddy, why are they calling you fat bee, you fat? And I used to say to the kids, because they go, Daddy, you're not, when you've got your clothes off, Dad, you're not fat. I just had that stature. I had that my kit or whatever I used to wear. And I used to say to the kids, when they stop calling me fat, then I'm not doing my job properly. And I always say this is that, and I've said it, and it's the proof's in the pudding. When you come out in them days, out the ground, and in them days you'd sign people's programs, wouldn't you? There was no mobile phones then. No. And loads of supporters, away supporters, would say, Dino, will you sign my program? And just as I'm getting on the coach, either I've scored 2 goals or I've messed somebody up, centre halves or whatever. And I go, I bet you called me a fat today, didn't you? And he go, yeah, I did, Dean, but I wish you'd play for us.
Tell you what, we've got to wrap up now, part 1. But I tell you what, there's a fat lad from Sheffield, Billy Sharp, who'd entirely agree with you. It was a recent guest as well. Hey,
nothing on Sharpie. There's nothing on. He's like,
is there?
He's like Twiggy to me.
I'll tell you what. We'll come back to this. There's been a new version of the Greasy Chip Butty, the Sheffield United anthem, and it's all in a great cause to raise money for the NHS. The singer of that, Max Restano, will join us after the break alongside Dean Windass. Hope you can join us as well in 5.